Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are coming back, thank you so much for coming back and joining me. If you are new, welcome. Make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and hit that notification bell so that you can receive all the notifications when I have a video coming up. Today I am going to be talking about finances and financial stability at a young age. This actually stemmed from a question that I received on my Instagram. I put like the Instagram questions and I can put it up here or whatever. And somebody asked how to be financially stable at the age of 23, how to get out of debt or how to manage your college debt. And then another question was how to be your own boss, which that'll be in another video for me to cover that. But today I wanted to kind of just give some advice on, financial stability and how to grow and be financially stable at a young age. So if you are interested and want to learn more about the tips and tricks that I have, then make sure to just keep watching. I do want to use this as a disclaimer before I start. I am not a financial advisor. I am not a professional in finances whatsoever. This is just tips and tricks that I have learned over even the past couple of months that I have personally been using for my life. And so I wanted to be able to share with you all as well. By no means am I perfect in my finances, and I'm still working on myself with my finances, but I figured I would share with you all what I have learned so that you all can use it and kind of practice it as well if you want to try it out. So let me just put that out. Okay, so the first thing I do when it comes to my finances is I always make a budget. So every month, actually before the month begins, so let's say August is coming up, the best month of the year, but August is coming up. So before August, I actually have already created my budget for how I want to spend my money for next month. And so what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll write down all the expenses I have. So all of the bills that I have, like my car note, my credit card, all of those, I sit down and write all of those down and all of the prices for that. And then I also account for any other expenses that I have, such as groceries, self-care. I'll throw a little bit of money aside. My savings, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, I write down as well. And I compile that all on a list, and I use that as a guide for the rest of the month, or for the whole month, I should say. One thing that I've noticed is that I was spending so much more money than I needed to be spending if I did not have a budget. So I was literally free spending and just spending crazy amounts of money on stuff that I really do not need. So it helped me to see where exactly my money was going whenever I did create a budget. So I do use a budget each month to try to help me out on what I'm spending for the month, where I want my money to go to. Second thing I do, and I mentioned earlier, when I'm creating my budget, I always create my savings portion. So each month on my check, I try to figure out what I'm making on that check, and then I normally will set aside about 10%, 10 to 15% of that check, and I try to put it in my savings account. Now with me, because I do have debt, I do have college debt, my student loan debt, personal loan debt, and I do have credit cards, my savings account, the money that I'm putting towards my savings isn't as much as that it could potentially be if I did not have that debt. But because I do have that debt, I do put a lot of money towards that to try to go ahead and pay that off. And I'll talk about the method that I use soon. But that is what I do. I create my savings out of the amount of money that I receive. So when it comes to savings, I know a lot of people have a lot of different issues when it comes to savings, saying, oh, I don't make enough to save. Oh, I can't put enough money aside to save. Oh, it's hard for me not to dip into my savings. So one thing that I learned, and I got this from Mia Ray, and I can link her channel down below. One thing that she does the lose $50 a month challenge. And so for her, in her mind, she plays it out. If I'm setting aside this money, this basically means that I'm completely losing it. So say for instance, you go to the store and you look in your wallet and you realize you've lost $20. You don't know where you lost it at. You could have lost it outside of the store. You could have dropped it outside of the car when you were getting out. Whatever it may be, you've lost that $20. What do you do afterwards? You just move on with life. You try to figure out, okay, how do I gain another $20, or I'll just have to do without that $20 for the month. So that is a method that I have actually started using. Is I'll set aside a certain amount of money in the month, and then I will forget about it. I will just literally program it in my mind to say, okay, I have physically lost this money. This money does not exist anymore. So what do I need to do, and how do I need to plan out my budget around me losing this money? And so that has definitely changed my mindset when it comes to savings, because now it's like I don't even think about that money anymore, because it's like I never got it. It basically never existed to me. So that's a method that I use for savings. Another thing that I learned from her is the 25-25 rule. And it depends on your income and what you can save and what you can't. Me, I'm able to save a little bit more than 25, but one way to start off is, say for instance, you're at the beginning of the year and you want to be able to save up for a trip or Christmas. We'll just say Christmas, for instance. So each check that you get, you set aside $25. And when she had started this challenge, she had asked people, how many of you all can set aside $25 per check? And a lot of people were like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if it's something I can do. But if you realize how much you spend on other things, you would be able to come up with that $25 quickly. So like, if somebody hit you up and said, hey, let's go to the movies and go get something to eat, and you're like, yeah, you know, let's go. That's your $25 there, because you're paying $12, $15 for a movie ticket and $10 for a Chipotle meal. And so that's kind of the analogy she gave. So it helped me think, okay, but that's how I have programmed kind of myself. I will say, okay, if I really think about it, I used to spend X amount of money each month on going out to eat. And that was really my one weakness when it came to saving money. I used to eat out all of the time, especially living in the city. I went back in my finances and looked at how much money I was spending at restaurants, and it was ridiculous. Like, enough to where I could have easily paid off all of my credit cards every single month off of that one expense from me eating out. It was just ridiculous. I'm just gonna be honest, it was totally ridiculous. So I had to think, how much money was I using each month for this, which was a lot. And so now the money that I would have been using to eating out, I can use that money to set aside to save, or put into to pay off debt and all that different type of thing. So that's kind of how I had to change my mindset when it comes to saving in your finances. It's not really about the money that you're making, but it's about your mentality and what you're going to do to use it. And so I had to think about it that way. So I always make sure each month that I am putting aside and trying to save. The next thing when it comes to finances for me is debt. Now, I know a lot of people, you know, deal with debt, and debt is just such like a negative term that people just like cringe at, and I just hate the thought of debt. But I think society has tried to train us, or social media has tried to show us that, oh, by the age of 23 or 24 you're supposed to have this just amazing job, and you're supposed to be making X amount of money, and you should not have any debt whatsoever. You should pay off everything. And that is not realistic at all. It is not realistic at all. If you think about it, and the question that it originally stemmed from, this video originally stemmed from, the girl had asked how to be financially stable and debt-free, or out of college debt at the age of 23. Listen, don't let people fool you. At the age of 23, studies show that people at the age of 23 that are college graduates have on average the amount of about $27,000 of student loan debt alone. That's not any other debt. Now, people under the age of 33, studies show that they have the average debt of $87,000. So that is taking the US average and sharing how much on average people have in debt at that age. So you cannot tell me that all these people, oh, I'm debt free, I'm doing this and that at younger age. Like, no, you cannot tell me that debt does not exist in a younger age, because it definitely does. So I will put this out. Don't feel that you have to be perfect in your finances at the age of 23. I know for a fact that I was not perfect, and I'm still not perfect in my finances right now whatsoever. I am still learning, and if I knew some of the stuff I knew now back when I was like 18, 19 years old, I would be in a much better state. I was spending, and not saving. I literally was spending so much money that I was spending more than I was bringing in. And so that's how debt accumulates, because you're swiping credit cards and you're swiping different cards, and it got to the point where it's like, okay, girl, you need to take a hold of your finances. So I wanted to say that even at the age that we are at, I am almost 25 years old. I am still learning, but at 23, society does not, and we do not need to expect everybody to be, their finances to be perfect, because not everybody's story is like that. Not everybody started off great. Not everybody had the knowledge in order to have perfect finances. I just wanted to make sure that I just cleared that up before getting into the debt section. Okay, so when it comes to debt, I actually have been reading a lot and researching a lot on how to be debt free and how to pay off debt and different ways to pay off debt. And the first thing I had to figure out was, how much was I in debt? Like, how much money did I owe in different areas? So between credit card, different credit cards that I've had, between personal loans and student loans, to figure out how much money did I owe. And so one day I sat down, anything that I owed, I wrote down. So I made sure to look up every single price. That's with my car note, with my auto loan that I have, with all my student loans, with the couple of credit cards that I had. I had to sit down and write down every single thing. Next, I started researching, figuring out, okay, what would be the easiest way for me to be able to try to pay off this debt. There's one individual that has definitely helped me out a lot when it comes to trying to figure out this whole debt situation, and that's Dave Ramsey. I know that everybody has heard about Dave Ramsey. He is amazing when it comes to finances, and he has helped so many people out when it comes to their finances, and he is helping me out right now. So one of the methods that I use to help myself get out of debt and to help pay off debt is the debt snowball effect. So with the debt snowball effect, it basically means that you are taking one of the debts that you're paying off. So you're listing all the debt you have from smallest to largest, and you're snowballing it. So say for instance, I have a credit card that has about $1,000 on it that I want to pay off, and say for instance the minimum payment is like $40. So each month, of course, I'm going to be paying, if I'm paying just the minimum payment, I'm paying that $40, which would take forever to try to pay off this amount. So what I do is, I have the credit card, I have the minimum amount. I look through my budget and I look through my finances to see, okay, where can I budge money and shift it around so that I can put more money towards this debt. And so I figure out that amount. To say for instance, I'm able to look at my budget and say, okay, I can spend an additional $200 each month on this debt. So I take the $40 that I have plus the additional $200 that I was able to find to put towards that debt. So that's $240 together that I'm able to pay each month on that debt. So with $240, I'm paying off that credit card within about 4.5 months. And so now that I've paid that $240 towards that debt, I'm completely done with that debt. That credit card is paid off. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move on to my next credit card or whatever debt that I have. And so it may be that the minimum payment for that credit card is like $35, or we'll say it's another $40. So what I'm going to do, and I've already been paying that minimum amount, remember, so each month I'm paying off that minimum amount anyway, so I'm already paying that $40. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that $40 that I have already been paying, and I'm going to add the $240 I was already spending each month on the previous debt that I had. And so I'm just combining that now, so all of that money together, which is $280, is now going towards that credit card debt that I'm paying off. And so I'm going ahead and paying that off. And so now that credit card is paid off as well, using the money that I was using to pay off the first credit card as well as the minimum payment from that one card. I'm hoping that makes sense. And so I do that, and I'm just snowballing that until I get to larger debts. So by the time, you know, I'm done paying off the smaller debts, I'm able to use the money altogether that I was using to pay off all those smaller debts to go ahead and pay off larger debts, such as like my student loans or whatever large debt that I have. And so that is kind of what I have learned from Dave Ramsey, and that's something that I have been personally following for not that long. It's been a very short while, a couple of months, that I have been following so that I can go ahead and try to pay off all of the debt that I can. And so that's definitely something that I suggest looking into if you're able to find wiggle room outside of the minimum payments that you're paying. Because if you're able to find that wiggle room and move around a little bit of money, or cut back on eating out, or cut back on shopping or going out and anything, and using that money you would have used towards the debt, it'll help you pay off that debt quicker, and it'll help from having to pay off even more debt because of the interest that you have. All right, so those are just some quick tips that I personally use right now to help me to be financially stable and to be, or have that financial balance. Like I said, in no way am I perfect whatsoever. I am still learning. I'm still growing through this process, but I wanted to make sure that the stuff that I have learned, I share with you all, because like I said before, I did not have this information before, and if I would have had this when I was younger or earlier in life, it would have been so helpful and would have kept me from what I have dealt with when it comes to finances. So I really hope that it has helped you out. One book that I would recommend is going to be The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. It is phenomenal. Like, I have learned so much from starting to read that book already, and it's just so many things that I didn't really realize about finances and the myths versus the truths when it comes to finances, and it's just amazing how much I've been able to learn. So I would definitely encourage you all to check that out. Please make sure to tune into my next video, because I will be showing you all how I budget my money, the different spreadsheets that I use, and the different like planners or like layouts that I use in order to budget, and stuff that kind of makes sense for me and kind of help me with budgeting and setting aside money and saving and all of that jazz. So make sure to check out the next video that I have, and I will see you all in that video. I will talk to you all later. Bye guys.